Trust is like gravity, invisible until it's gone. Then everything crashes down. Clear your desk, Miller. You're done here. Rick Thompson stood in my office doorway, clicking that Mont Blanc pen he always carried. The morning coffee smell mixed with my sudden nausea. 15 years at Aerotech Solutions. And it ended with 5 words. You're serious? I set down my handwritten client notes. The same leather notebook I'd used since 2008. Dead serious. Your refusal to adopt our new systems shows you're stuck in the past. We need forward-thinking sales leaders, not relationship dinosaurs. The keyboards around me stopped clicking. Everyone was watching. 23 faces turned our way, some sympathetic, others relieved it wasn't them. My relationships built this division. Your relationships are holding us back. Security will escort you out. I touched the stack of thank you cards from clients. Birthday wishes I'd saved. Photos of their kids. Handwritten notes about successful launches. Next to them sat purchase orders worth millions. All signed because of trust I'd built over 15 years. All inefficient, according to Rick's metrics. One question, I said. Those invoices from Synergy Sales Systems. Out. Now. His pen clicked faster. That told me everything. 20 minutes later, I stood in the Seattle drizzle, holding a cardboard box of personal items. Rain dotted the photos of my daughter Emma, my coffee mug from our first $1 million sale, the plaque recognizing 10 years of service. My cell buzzed, a text from Emma. Dad, did you submit the college tuition form? I stared at the Aerotech logo, rain blurring my vision. Rick had no idea what he'd just unleashed. But he would. Trust might be invisible, but when it's gone, the crash is spectacular. The security guard Tony whispered as he walked me out. Mr. Miller, that invoice you asked about? Accounting's been wondering too. Sometimes the first domino falls quietly. My name's David Miller. I'm 48, divorced but friendly with my ex, Linda. We still grab coffee monthly to discuss Emma, our daughter who's brilliant enough for MIT but worried about the cost. For 15 years, I woke at 5 a.m. to personally call my East Coast clients before their day started. Not emails, real conversations. Morning, Jim. How'd Sarah's recital go? David, she nailed the solo. Thanks for remembering. Send me a video. And let's discuss those hydraulic actuators after. That's how I built a $30 million portfolio selling specialized components to mid-sized manufacturers. I started as a junior sales rep, cold calling procurement managers who hung up more often than not. But I learned something crucial. Behind every purchase order was a person with kids, hobbies, fears about making the wrong decision on critical parts. Our components went into everything from regional aircraft to industrial equipment. One failure could mean lawsuits, shutdowns, lives at risk. My Ballard apartment wasn't fancy. Walls covered with client photos and handwritten thank you notes. My desk drawer held birthday reminders for 47 client contacts written on index cards, not in some app. I knew their coffee preferences. Jim, black, 2 sugars. Sarah, oat milk latte. Marcus, green tea only. I knew their kids' colleges, their weekend hobbies, their fears about automation replacing their jobs. The ritual mattered. Every morning, strong coffee in my lucky mug, leather notebook open, calls listed by time zone. First the East Coast, then Central, finally Mountain Time. By 8 a.m. Seattle time, I'd touched base with 12 people who controlled millions in purchasing power. Not because I had to, because relationships compound like interest. Ignore them and they depreciate. Nurture them and they grow exponentially. Was I perfect? Hell no. Emma jokes I text like I'm typing on a telegraph. The CRM system Rick loved made me feel like I was filling out tax forms in triplicate. But I wasn't stubborn. I tried. Spent 2 weeks entering data, creating reports, tracking metrics. But reducing Jim Patterson at Cascade Manufacturing to a series of data points felt like betrayal. The man trusted me with $3 million in annual orders because I'd talked him through his son's deployment to Afghanistan, not because I had the best PowerPoint deck. My flaws went deeper. I trusted too easily, assumed others operated with the same transparency I did. My marriage failed partly because I brought that same guileless faith home, believing words over actions, promises over patterns. Linda tried to warn me. David, not everyone plays by your rules. The divorce taught me to read people better, but apparently not well enough. That morning ritual, strong coffee, leather notebook, personal calls, built something Rick's algorithms couldn't measure. Trust. And trust, I'd learned, was everything in our business. When a hydraulic actuator fails at 15,000 feet, when a pressure sensor misreads in a chemical plant, when a guidance component glitches in heavy machinery, people die. My clients didn't just buy components. They bought the promise that I'd personally ensure quality, that I'd take their 2 a.m. panic calls, that I'd fight internally for their interests. You can't algorithm that. Aerotech Solutions manufactured specialized components for aerospace and industrial applications. Fuel sensors, hydraulic actuators, pressure gauges, guidance system parts. Not sexy, but critical. We weren't the biggest or cheapest supplier. We survived on reliability and relationships. $200 million in annual revenue, 300 employees, established 1987. A family business that went corporate but tried to keep the family feel. Rick Thompson arrived 6 months ago, Stanford MBA, 35, with 2 brief stints at failed startups. I transformed sales operations at my previous companies, he'd announced at his first all-hands, that Mont Blanc pen clicking away like a nervous telegraph. He wasn't evil, I see that now. Rick was desperate. Later, court documents would reveal the full picture. His first startup burned through $5 million in venture capital with nothing to show. His second company folded amid lawsuits from investors claiming misrepresentation. His wife left, taking their savings. He owed $800,000 to various creditors, faced potential securities fraud charges, and needed this job like a drowning man needs air. But that morning, I only saw arrogance wrapped in a $3,000 suit he couldn't afford. He spoke in acronyms: KPIs, SLAs, ROI, EBITDA. Every human interaction needed a metric. If you can't measure it, you can't manage it, became his mantra, delivered with a smile that never reached his eyes. He'd quote business books like scripture, name-drop CEOs he'd never met, reference case studies from companies that would have laughed at his resume. I noticed things. Occupational hazard of a lifetime in sales. Rick's BMW was leased, not owned. I saw the paperwork when he left it on the copier. He'd bristle when anyone questioned expenses, redirect conversations about budgets. That pen? $3,000 according to Marcus, who'd Googled it. His watch? 20 grand minimum, the desperate swagger of a man running from creditors. We're modernizing, he announced, unveiling a new sales system. Automated lead tracking, AI-powered customer insights, predictive analytics. The presentation showed a $2 million investment. CFO raised an eyebrow, but said nothing. Something felt off. Our IT director, Sandra, mentioned the actual software licenses cost $200,000. Where's the other $1.8 million going? She'd asked casually over lunch. Implementation, consulting, integration, I'd suggested. She shook her head. I manage IT. We're doing integration in-house. No consultants on my schedule. His nervous tell was that clicking pen. Click, click, click whenever someone asked about specific vendors. Click, click, click when discussing implementation timelines. Click, click, click during budget meetings. I'd been in sales long enough to recognize when someone was selling smoke, and Rick was running a 5-alarm fire. 3 weeks after the system launch, I noticed oddities in our financial reports. New vendors appearing, synergy sales systems, revenue optimization partners, growth catalyst consulting. Small invoices at first. $30,000 here, $50,000 there. Amounts designed to fly under approval thresholds. Then I saw something worse. Rick was adding projected sales to our pipeline as confirmed orders, inflating our numbers by 30%. When I questioned it privately, trying to give him an out, he'd smiled. David, you need to think bigger. Market confidence drives market reality. That's not how SEC regulations work. Are you a lawyer now? No, but I can read. This is fraud. His pen stopped clicking. The silence stretched like a taut wire. My office now. His office reeked of cologne and flop sweat despite the air conditioning. Awards he'd bought online decorated the walls. Books he'd never read lined pristine shelves. The desk held nothing but his laptop and that damned pen. You just accused me of fraud. I stated facts. Draw your own conclusions. Here's a fact. You're a dinosaur who can't adapt. You've undermined me since day one. I've done my job for 15 years. Your job is what I say it is. He leaned back, pen clicking rapid fire. And right now, your job is to pack your desk. You're firing me for questioning fraudulent numbers? I'm firing you for insubordination, creating a hostile work environment, and failure to adopt required systems. He smiled then, sharp as broken glass. Unless you'd prefer we discuss your expense account, all those client dinners. I'm sure an audit would find irregularities. A threat wrapped in a lie. My expenses were cleaner than his conscience. But fighting would take lawyers I couldn't afford. Time I didn't have. Emma's tuition was due in a week. This is wrong, Rick. Wrong is relative. Survival isn't. Click, click, click. You have 1 hour. Security arrived. Tony, whose son I'd helped get an internship at Boeing. Sorry, Mr. Miller, he whispered. Then louder for Rick's benefit. Let's go. As we walked past accounting, I saw the evidence that would damn him. A $75,000 invoice from Synergy Sales Systems for Q3 sales optimization services. The same amount as Rick's BMW down payment. Coincidences are rare in fraud. Mr. Miller, Brenda from accounting caught my arm. Those new vendors Rick approved? Something's off. No W-9S, no physical addresses, just not my problem anymore, I said, loud enough for Rick to hear. But I made eye contact with Brenda. Keep digging. Rick wasn't evil. He was drowning, and drowning men will drag anyone down to stay afloat. But every drowned man leaves ripples. That first week hit like a sucker punch. 15 years of 5 a.m. alarms. And suddenly, nothing. I sat at Ballard Coffee Works, my usual table by the window, watching the rain and searching LinkedIn. Sales director wanted, must be metrics-driven, CRM certified, comfortable with ambiguity. Translation, young, cheap, willing to fudge numbers. My coffee grew cold. Funny how it tasted better from my lucky mug at the office. The barista, Janet, who'd made my order for 5 years, noticed. You okay, David? You're never here past 7:30. Career change, I managed. At your age, tough market. At my age, 48 meant experience to me, expired to recruiters. Then Jim Patterson called. David? Just heard you're exploring new opportunities. Corporate speak for unemployed. Listen, we need you at Cascade. Been thinking about bringing component procurement in-house. Jim, I appreciate it, but no buts. You know our standards, our systems. Hell, you helped write our quality requirements. When can you start? My throat tightened. There might be a non-compete. For sales, not procurement. I checked. David, you saved my ass more times than I can count. Let me return the favor. That's when the second call came. Marcus Chen, my protege still at Aerotech. Don't say my name, just listen. Remember those invoices you questioned? Accounting found more. Brenda's documenting everything. It's bigger than you thought. How big? 7 figures big. And David, those companies are shells, all registered to the same address, a mailbox in Delaware. The coffee shop sounds faded. You're sure? Delaware Business Search is public record. Synergy Sales Systems, Revenue Optimization Partners. 3 others, all formed within days of Rick joining. All listing the same registered agent. Marcus, be careful. Don't. Already looking for new jobs. Half the sales team is. But we're documenting everything first. You lit a fuse, David. Question is, how big's the explosion? I thought of Rick's desperation, his debts, his clicking pen. Big enough to take down everyone near him. Send me what you can legally share. And Marcus, watch your back. That night, Emma called from college. Dad, financial aid office says the payment's late. Just a timing issue with the job transition. It's handled. It would be even if I had to empty my 401k. Dad, are you okay? You sound different. I'm fine, kiddo. Tell me about your classes. She chattered about organic chemistry, about her study group, about a boy named Trevor who kept bringing her coffee. Normal things, safe things. Everything I'd worked 15 years to provide. After we hung up, I opened my laptop. Time to learn what Rick Thompson was really running from. Court records tell stories if you know where to look. Pacer showed 2 lawsuits against Rick's first startup. Investors claiming he'd misrepresented burn rates, inflated user numbers, settled out of court. His second company faced worse. Securities fraud allegations, though charges were dropped when the company folded. LinkedIn told another story. 5 jobs in 8 years. Never lasting more than 18 months. Always leaving for exciting new opportunities that seemed to excite him right out the door. But the real tell was his spending patterns. You can trace a desperate man by what he can't give up. The BMW, the watch, the pen, props in a play where he cast himself as successful executive. Rick wasn't stealing for greed. He was stealing to survive, to maintain an image that had become identity. 3 months into my new role at Cascade, Brenda called. We'd worked together 12 years. She didn't mince words. David, internal audit found it. $1.3 million paid to shell companies. All Rick's approval. All fake invoices for services never rendered. You have proof? Documented to hell and back. Emails where Rick pressures accounting to process payments. Wire transfers to accounts that trace back to his name. He got sloppy, desperate. Started taking bigger chunks. What's Aerotech doing? Emergency board meeting tomorrow. CEOs flying in from Chicago. Word is they've already contacted the FBI. I felt no satisfaction. Just sadness for the collateral damage. Good people who'd lose jobs when the scandal broke. Stock options now worthless. Retirements deferred. Brenda, you okay? I'm testifying tomorrow. Whistleblower protection. But still. Her voice cracked. 15 years there, David. It was a good company. It was. Rick doesn't change that. Doesn't he? Trust is like gravity. Invisible until it's gone. Yeah. And we're all feeling the fall. The story broke on a Thursday. Seattle Times, page 1 of the business section. Aerotech executive. $1.3 million scheme. Rick's mugshot showed him still wearing that expensive suit, but the pen was gone. My phone exploded. Reporters wanting quotes, colleagues sharing shock, clients checking their invoices. I gave one statement. I'm focused on my new role. The authorities will handle the rest. But Linda called that evening with the question that mattered. How's Emma taking it? She doesn't know yet. David, she's brilliant. She'll figure it out. Better from you than Google. I called Emma that night. Explained simply. My former boss stole money, got caught, was going to prison. I'd noticed irregularities, questioned them, got fired for it. But you could have stayed quiet, she said. Kept your job. Could I? Knowing what I knew. Long pause. No, you couldn't. That's why he fired you. He knew you'd never stay quiet. When did you get so wise? Genetics. Plus that ethics class you made me take. How's Trevor? Still bringing coffee. It's becoming a thing. Some things were still normal, still good. Rick's trial took 8 months. I testified once, stating facts, questioned invoices, got fired, reported concerns through proper channels. His lawyer tried painting me as a disgruntled employee. But evidence doesn't lie. Emails showed Rick creating false invoices. Bank records traced payments to his accounts. The gambling debts, $800,000 to various casinos, provided motive. He looked smaller in court. No power suit, no expensive pen. Just a man in a borrowed jacket facing the consequences of desperation. When our eyes met, I saw something unexpected. Relief. The running was over. He pled guilty, cooperated fully, showed where every dollar went, how the scheme worked, who else might be running similar frauds. The judge gave him 18 months in minimum security. Could have been 5 years. The courtroom artist caught him perfectly. Shoulders slumped, head down, gravity finally winning. Aerotech survived but wounded. Stock dropped 30%, recovered to minus 15%. They hired a forensic accounting firm. Found Rick was the only executive involved. Small mercy. My old division downsized. Several clients left, trust being harder to rebuild than lose. But my former colleagues landed well. I wrote recommendations, made calls, opened doors where I could. Marcus joined Microsoft's procurement team. Turns out documenting fraud shows attention to detail. Sandra started her own IT consulting firm specializing in financial controls. Brenda became head of accounting, implemented new approval processes that would have caught Rick day one. I stayed at Cascade Manufacturing. Smaller company, family-owned, run by people who understood that trust isn't outdated. My lucky mug found a new home on a desk overlooking Puget Sound. The leather notebook filled with new names, new relationships, but the same 5 a.m. ritual. You happy? Linda asked over coffee 6 months later. Content. It's different. Different how? Like recovering from surgery. Everything works, but you're aware of the scar. Scars prove you survived something. Very philosophical for a real estate agent. I sell homes, David. I know about foundations. We laughed. First time in years we'd found the same thing funny. Some relationships, once rebuilt, grow stronger at the broken places. A letter came on a Tuesday, 15 months after the arrest. Federal prison stationery, Rick's handwriting. David, they say the first step is admitting the problem. Took me a year to get there. I was drowning, in debt, in image, in lies, I told myself. When you questioned those invoices, I panicked. Fired the one person who might have helped me come clean. Prison's not what you'd think. Lots of time to reflect. I teach financial literacy to other inmates now. Ironic, right? But maybe I can prevent someone else's fall. I'm sorry for what I took from you. Not just the job, but the trust in a company you loved. You could have destroyed me completely. You didn't. That matters. When I get out, I'll make proper amends. Not asking forgiveness, just acknowledging the debt. Rick. I kept the letter in my desk drawer next to Emma's graduation photo. Not as vindication, but as reminder. Anyone can fall. The only difference between Rick and me was which side of gravity we chose. My new office overlooked Elliott Bay, smaller than the old one, but the view reminded me why I loved Seattle. Constant motion, tides that came and went but always returned. I still used handwritten notes, still made morning calls, but now I also taught others the value of both. Mr. Miller? My assistant Kelly stood in the doorway. Jim Patterson's on line 1, says Boeing's interested in a major contract, wants you to consult on vendor selection. Tell him I'll call back in 5. I'm on with a client, the one whose daughter just started violin. You're learning. She smiled. Hard not to. You make it look important. It is important. That's the secret everyone's forgotten. The call was from a small manufacturer in Spokane. Worried about meeting aerospace standards, I walked them through the process, mentioned 3 consultants who could help, promised to review their documentation personally. No fee. Sometimes you invest in future trust. Emma visited during spring break, full of stories about internships and Trevor, now officially boyfriend, and professors who challenged her thinking. We walked through Gasworks Park, same spot where Marcus had shared evidence that started everything. Any regrets? She asked, watching seaplanes land on Lake Union. About what? Not pushing harder initially. Could have exposed him sooner. Could've, should've, would've. That's just gravity in reverse trying to fall up. I pointed at a seaplane taking off. See that? Looks like it's defying gravity, but it's not. It's using gravity, working with it. That's what happened. The truth has its own weight. It finds its level. Very zen, Dad. Very old, you mean. Experienced. There's a difference. We watched the city lights flicker on, each one representing someone's story, someone's struggle, someone's hope. Rick was out there somewhere, rebuilding. My phone buzzed. A LinkedIn message from a young sales rep. Mr. Miller, I heard you speak at the conference. Could we discuss building authentic client relationships? I'm struggling with my company's metrics-only approach. The cycle continuing. Another person learning that trust can't be automated, that relationships aren't inefficient, that gravity works both ways. It can crush or it can ground you. Sure you want my advice? I typed back. I'm the guy who got fired for being old-fashioned. That's exactly why I want your advice, came the instant reply. You're also the guy whose clients followed him to a new company. That's the kind of old-fashioned I want to be. I smiled, remembering my own mentors, the ones who taught me that a handwritten note could be worth more than 100 emails, that knowing someone's coffee order was a business strategy, that trust compounded faster than any interest rate. Coffee next week? I suggested. I know a place in Ballard. Rick served 14 months with good behavior. Last I heard, he was working as a freelance consultant, helping small businesses spot financial fraud, using his fall to prevent others. There's poetry in that. Dark poetry, but poetry nonetheless. He sent another letter when he got out, asking to meet. I declined, kindly. Some bridges, once burned, serve better as monuments than pathways. But I wished him well, meant it. We're all just trying to stay upright in our own way. The workshop I taught, Trust-Based Selling in a Digital Age, grew from 20 attendees to 200. Turns out plenty of people felt lost in the metrics, hungry for human connection. I taught them about gravity, how trust pulls people together, how authenticity has weight, how the invisible forces matter most. But how do you measure relationship ROI? Someone always asked. You don't, I'd answer. You measure it in client retention, in referrals, in phone calls answered at 2 a.m., in businesses that survive because someone cared enough to notice. You measure it in gravity, what holds when everything else falls apart. The leather notebook still traveled with me, filled with new names but the same purpose. Kelly had her own now, tooled with her initials. A gift when she landed her first major client by remembering his wife's cancer diagnosis, sending a card when it mattered. Old-fashioned, she'd asked when she thanked me. Human, I corrected. Eternally relevant. Trust is like gravity, invisible until it's gone, then everything crashes down. But here's what 15 years taught me, and 18 months confirmed. Gravity isn't vengeful. It simply is. It pulls truth to the surface, brings people to their level, holds the universe together through invisible bonds we ignore at our peril. Rick learned that the hard way. I learned it the harder way, by watching someone I could have helped choose to fall instead. But in the end, we both landed where we belonged. Him in a cell that became a classroom. Me in an office that became a teaching platform. The pen? He was right to sell it. The real power was never in the props. It was in the connections, the trust, the invisible threads that bind us even when we're falling. Especially when we're falling. My lucky mug sits on my desk, coffee stained and chipped, but still functional. Like trust, like gravity, like all the invisible forces that shape our lives whether we acknowledge them or not. Some things never change, nor should they. And that's the real revenge. Not destroying those who wronged us, but building something they couldn't tear down. Trust finds its level. Truth has its own weight. Gravity always wins, not because it's cruel, but because it's constant. And in a world of quarterly projections and inflated metrics, sometimes the most radical act is simply standing still, letting the invisible forces do their work, trusting that what rises on lies will fall on truth. My phone rings. Another client, another relationship, another thread in the invisible web that holds commerce together. I answer with the same words I've used for 15 years. David Miller, how can I help? Because in the end, that's all any of us can do. Help each other navigate the invisible forces. Build trust one conversation at a time. And remember that gravity isn't punishment. It's just physics. And physics, like trust, doesn't lie.